Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Accelerating Revenue Growth in the Digital Marketing Era webinar featuring Jon Miller, CEO of Engagio, and our very own Paul Albright. Today, you'll learn how top-of-funnel marketing and account-based marketing can fuel your demand generation engine. My name is Aya Fawzi, and I'm the marketing specialist here at Captora, and I'll be your moderator today. Before we get started, we have a few housekeeping items. The webinar today is being recorded, so sit back, enjoy the webinar, and you will get a link to that recording at the end. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat box at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, and we'll do a live Q&A after the webinar. And if you're an avid tweeter, please use the hashtag ABM TOFU on the screen and at the lower left-hand side to follow the conversation. And without further ado, I'd like to present our CEO, Paul Albright, to kick things over. So Paul, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Aya. Good morning, everyone. I'm extremely fired up to be here on the webinar with Jon Miller. We worked together at Marketo prior to starting each of our companies and worked very closely together to architect the marketing growth strategy for Marketo before we went public. And it's interesting because now we both saw opportunities to create marketing technology companies that deliver advanced products that address some of the biggest challenges facing modern marketers. And so it's unusual for both CEOs to have been CMOs in the past. So we've got two different complementary companies here, started by marketers and designed by marketers for marketers. What we're going to talk about today is around best practices, and then we'll also go through metrics, talking about the different ways to engage new buyers and how do you accelerate growth through both inbound and outbound marketing. So Captora is a product that helps you to significantly expand the reach of your conversion rates or quality of your marketing campaigns by using a SaaS platform in order to find and engage new buyers in the top of the funnel. So think of Captora as casting a big net, having sonar and figuring out where all the fish are, and then bringing in new buyers in volume that continue to scale through non-branded terms. And what Jon and his company, Engagio, are doing is much more of the right-hand picture going outbound. We know what we're hunting. We're going to use spears to go hunt them, and let's bring in known contacts or known animals that then we're going to turn into great buyers of your company's products. So we're going to go through best practices, then we're going to talk about best metrics to measure both inbound and outbound marketing, and then how to use technology and tips and techniques for modern marketers to be more efficient with that. The dilemma, and this is interesting coming from experience. So I've been fortunate enough over the past 5 years to meet hundreds of great marketing leaders. And here's the seminal dilemma that's facing the modern marketer. Number one, I have to source more leads, but I also need to source more new buyers while improving the cost for acquiring those new leads without increasing budget. So another way of saying that is I need to beat my future visitor, lead, and revenue goals within the constraint of my current budget. And to do that, I need to do a better job of figuring out what keyword phrases, what campaigns are working, what types of campaigns and offers are going to engage those new buyers in the top of the funnel. And this was one of the things that I heard quite a bit of when I was at Marketo. So we had thousands of companies that would engage with us, and the marketers would say, hey, Paul, this is great. I love Marketo. It's a great product. And it helps me to convert known contacts into buyers in the bottom of the funnel. So many of you are using Salesforce as your CRM product, and you're using some form of marketing automation to manage contacts and convert those contacts into opportunities and then move them into the bottom of the funnel to turn them into customers. The issue that I saw and heard about many times over is how do I engage what were previously anonymous people and turn them into leads and do that using non-branded terms. Because the key is, if I could engage them through their pain statement when they begin to look for products like what your company has to sell, then those are going to be much higher quality leads, and they're going to move through the funnel much faster. And that's a numerator problem, whereas what marketing automation is focusing on is a denominator problem. So I want to have more high-quality leads coming in, then put those into my marketing automation product so I can score and nurture them, and then quickly get them to move through the pipeline so that our sales cycle is contracted and we're able to show increased productivity, and that's measured through cost of acquiring new customers, or CAC, or magic number. So that's what Captora is all about, is focusing on the numerator problem. How do I get more anonymous folks to find your company and your products before they find your competition, and then quickly get them into your nurturing track so that you can do a more effective job of converting them into new buyers. And then if you break that down into a blueprint, we had at Marketo 450 people at the company when I was there, 25 of which were in digital marketing or demand gen. And the inefficiencies that we address now at Captora fall into 5 key categories. The sixth is the hub in the middle. The purple bubbles on the left-hand side are about figuring out where to work. So we had a large number of marketers trying to figure out what keywords to prioritize, what retargeting campaigns to run and issue, what offers or content to put on the pages, and how to best set up those pages so that they would be effective in capturing new leads. Once we figured out what the right priorities were, then it gets into the blue circles, which is I want to expand and optimize the campaigns. So in the world of organic marketing, it's a long tail play. How do I expand the reach or the number of SEO campaigns that have dedicated landing pages that will optimize the conversion or grab the contact information of that person? So every page has a CTA on it and the right kind of offer for the buyer that I'm trying to attract. And the optimization side is, do I have the right content on those pages, whether it's a click-through from a LinkedIn ad or Google AdWords or an organic campaign, so that my conversion rates are increasing and I'm able to show a lower CPL or cost per lead as we expand the number of campaigns or the amount of spend that I have across my digital marketing campaigns. And then the last step is making sure that I have predictive and reporting analytics that give confidence to me and the marketing team, but also to my CEO, CFO, and sales folks, that we're able to track by campaign, by keyword, by spend area or by channel, what's converting, what's not converting, where do we spend our time, so we know where we're going to double down our bets and which ones aren't going to work for us and we pull out of them. So learning and closing the loop across the top of the funnel so that we're figuring out where the new pools of buyers are to execute our campaigns into before our competition, and do that at volume so our competition wakes up and can't believe how hard we're hitting them with new keywords that we're dominating and getting ranked for in organic, but also we're being smarter and more efficient about the spend across Google AdWords, LinkedIn, and our retargeting strategies. So we'll talk more about metrics later on in the webinar, but that's best practices for the inbound digital marketing world. Now I'll hand over to Jon Miller to talk about the outbound or spear hunting part of the world with account-based marketing. Jon, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Paul, and hello, everyone. So let's just begin with a basic definition of account-based marketing, because it's somewhat of a newer topic for a lot of people. There are a lot of definitions out there if you go searching for one. I've come up with this one because it captures to me the most important points about account-based marketing. First of all, that it is a strategic approach. This is not a tactic. This is not a campaign. This is a fundamental way of thinking about how to align your marketing department and connect it to your sales team. Second, account-based marketing is personalized. The whole idea here, as Paul said, is we are going outbound and reaching out to our target accounts. And as I'll talk in a minute, when you reach out to somebody, if you're not relevant and not resonant using the language they use, just, you will not cut through the noise. And so you need to tailor your messaging to resonate with them at a mass personalized way. Third, ABM is actually a misnomer because ABM really covers marketing and sales development and selling. In some ways, I think sometimes, account-based sales development is a better name. And then lastly, a key attribute of ABM is that it is both about getting new relationships and new customers, but it's also about deepening and expanding your existing customer relationships. It's about not just the top of the funnel or sort of the new business funnel, but it's the full bow tie of expanding to existing customers as well. So in terms of thinking about how do you do ABM, I think it's useful to make a contrast to the traditional demand generation model. Traditionally, with a demand gen, you start with your offer. Hey, I'm doing a webinar, or I have a white paper. And then you second figure out where are you going to say that. I'm going to do an email promotion. I'm going to buy some ads. I'm going to do some search. And only then do you kind of go into those tools and pick the target audience. You build your list for your email. You do your targeting for your search, that kind of thing. The demand gen tends to go what, then where, then who. But in ABM, we use, flip my funnel, and we start with the who. We start by thinking, who are the accounts that I'm trying to reach, and who are the right people at those accounts? And then we figure out what can I say to these accounts to be really relevant. And then only then do we finish with figuring out, well, how are we going to get this right message in front of the right people? So it's really a simple three-step model: who, then what, then where. And I'm going to talk about each of these, starting with the who. The first step in the who is you pick your target accounts. Which accounts do I want to go after? And really, I think there's kind of 4 levels of maturity here. The first level is you just go to your sales reps and ask them to pick their target accounts. Every rep, please give me 15 accounts, by next Friday. This is where most people start. And the problem with it is that all too often, reps are going to just pick, the best names or the most familiar names of accounts and not really be applying a lot of science into, well, what are the right accounts with the highest propensity to buy. You move up a level, you can make that selection process a little bit easier using, basic data, right? Well, what industry are those accounts in? How many employees do they have? Where are they located? And, compare that to your experience of, well, what makes good accounts? You can give them some guidance. Go to the third level and now use, I'd say, more advanced data. Things like technographics, where you figure out what other technologies that company uses. Things like intent data, where you're using the various intent data vendors to go find out which companies are actually in market and looking for products that you sell. And then combining that with your own internal engagement data, i.e., do you have contacts at that account? Do you have web traffic from that account? And so on. And then putting all that data in front of the salesperson to help them make the best choices about which to pick. And then the highest level is to use predictive scoring vendors, which don't just look at 3 or 4 or 5 attributes, but look at thousands of attributes and analyze that to almost, come up with recommendations for accounts, just like Netflix comes up with recommendations for movies for you. So, you don't have to start with predictive. There's just lots of ways to think about building your target account list. The one piece of advice I say strongly is don't let the list turn over too quickly. ABM is a strategy where you're taking these accounts and building a relationship over time. It's not churn and burn. And so, rule of thumb, I like to say try to limit your list turnover to no more than 25% of the list each quarter. Once you pick your target accounts, the next thing you have to do is go build your database with the right contacts for each of the personas at those target accounts. You can do that manually. Once you have one email address for a company, say it's firstname.lastname@company.com. Right, by looking at LinkedIn, you can go and figure out, the email for pretty much anybody you need to know. You can outsource that, using cloud labor, or you can have third parties do that for you. You can buy lists from companies like InsideView or NetProspects. Discover.org is interesting because they don't just give you the data, they give you the org chart, which is very, very powerful because you can understand the hierarchies and the relationships, but they're also expensive. And then lastly, some of the predictive scoring companies can give you contacts for the right people and the right profiles for the accounts that they've identified for you. So the who is actually pretty straightforward. You have to, but it starts with doing the work to identify these target accounts. And the next step is, well, what are we going to say? And as we said earlier, this is an outbound process. You're knocking on people's doors. Put this another way, a salesperson doesn't really need marketing to build relationships with the people the salesperson already knows. What sales wants is they want marketing to help them get new relationships. Perhaps you're working with lower level people in the organization and you need to talk to the higher level executives, or you want to get into a new division, right? You're reaching out to people who you don't have a previous relationship with. Now, the problem is the state of the art in this outbound prospecting today, too often I think is cold calls and steak dinners. And, there are a lot of SDRs out there and a lot of salespeople who are doing outbound activities. And they're doing it pretty badly, I think. I get emails like this one probably 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. And take a look at this one. There's nothing about this email that makes me think that this person spent a lot of time and energy really trying to understand how to be relevant and resonant with me specifically. When you get emails like this, right, I hit the spam button. Not only am I not letting you sell or not connecting with you, I'm blocking you from ever reaching me. So how can we combine the need to be outbound with desire not to be spammy and irrelevant? And the lesson is to take the best concepts that we've learned from content marketing and demand generation and apply it here. Reach out to our target accounts with content that is helpful and valuable, that is about them and that's not about us, and then measure the hell out of the whole thing to keep making it better and better over time. When we can do that, we have a dramatically higher chance of reaching our target accounts. Now, this is easier said than done because, as in its ultimate form, at the top of the pyramid here, you're treating each account individually as a market of one. Now, that makes sense if you sell big deals. If you're selling a $500,000 deal to Toyota, of course you're going to treat them as a single personalized account. Toyota has more revenue than some countries have for GDP. But not every company sells $500,000 deals. And so the question is, as you move down the pyramid, and even if you can't be truly one-to-one about an account, how do you make sure that you're researching them enough so that when you reach out, you're relevant to their specific issues, their specific business problems? This can be incredibly powerful in practice. There's this company called Telemetry that used content to get into accounts. And they wanted to do a strategic partnership with a division of Amazon. And so they wrote a custom blog post that was about how their product could work with Amazon Web Services. So they created super relevant content that targeted that specific account they wanted to reach. And then they didn't stop there. They made a custom Facebook audience that promoted that blog post into the feed of anybody who worked at Amazon. And within 2 weeks, they actually had a meeting with the right people at that account. Code of this story is actually Amazon bought the company a couple months later. But I think the really powerful piece of this story is encapsulated by this data from ITSMA, which is that if the content is useful and relevant to their business, executives will engage with it even if it's an outbound activity. So this brings us finally to the where. You've picked your accounts, you've created that useful, relevant content. Now we have to get them to the account. There's a whole palette of tactics that companies use: events, outbound prospecting, digital. And we don't have time to get into each of these. But a couple of thoughts to say. Events are still the biggest piece of most company budgets. But we need to change our mindset. It's not about how many people registered for the event or attended the event. It's how many of the right people did. I'll talk more about that later. And in order to get the right people to attend your event, you need to reach high. And the invites, if you want people of a certain level to attend your event, the invite should come from people at least of a similar or higher level title from your organization. You will not get executives to attend your events just by sending marketing emails. On the outbound side, there's lots you can do with your SDRs and helping them to up their game by being more relevant and personalized. And then you can complement what they're doing with direct mail and dimensional mailers. And then digital, there's lots of options there. There's a whole palette of things you can do, targeting the company by IP address. You can, you can do retargeting where you onboard the contacts you've identified and just show those people the ads. You can do web personalization where you identify when these people hit your website and react accordingly. So lots of tactics you can use. I think where this gets really powerful though is where it's not just running single campaigns or single tactics, but you really think about the integrated plays where you coordinate each of the different activities. Your events are your drums, and your prospecting are your string instruments, and your digital are your brass. And then you have an orchestra conductor that makes it all work in harmony. There's an example of a campaign we ran at Marketo that I think illustrates this point. Basically, we targeted inactive contact, high value but inactive contacts to target companies, and we FedExed them a box that had a personalized letter, an ebook, and then some fortune cookies that had marketing specific fortunes in it. The hope is that they look at the letter, they scan it, they recycle it or throw it away. If we're lucky, the ebook goes onto their desk, and then the box of cookies goes in the kitchen where then lots of people are seeing that Marketo logo. Once that FedEx was signed for, that kicked off the signal comes back to Marketo, kicked off a campaign that had a series of emails and calls with service level agreements around it. And what's cool about this campaign with its multi-channel approach of direct mail, email, and phone, we didn't even do any digital ads here, is we had a 63% connect rate where we ended up having live, meaningful human conversations with almost 2/3 of the people we targeted. I think that's pretty cool. So that's some of the best practices for ABM, summarized as the who, the what, and the where. And I'd like to hand it back to Paul here as we move into the metrics section. How do we know if all this stuff is working?
Great. Thank you, John. So let's dig in. Part of the fun is the math behind successful marketing. And if we look at the top of the funnel metrics, the first thing to think about is to assess your current marketing situation. What is your profile? And you can look at that first at the company level. So what kind of digital marketing juice does your company have? And one way of looking at that is quality rating scores, and then also you can go to Alexa.com and look at your Alexa ranking. And if your global ranking is better than 50,000, then you're in decent shape. You'd love to get that down into the sub 10,000 range over time. But just watching that is one indicator of the strength of your digital profile, which means if you kick out a new digital campaign and landing page, the opportunity for it to score highly on Google's quality score or to rank quickly up on the first page from an SEO perspective is enhanced. Look at the number of links you have, how mature and how active is your overall market. Do you have a lot of competitors? Are there actively competed keywords that are associated with it? And in my opinion, the more mature, the more active and more competitors, the more opportunity there is, because you want to find new keywords that are emerging, and all markets are changing. So the more switched on you are with new technology to figure out what keywords are emerging and find those new pools of buyers more quickly, and you've got the potency to then rank and be seen and found, then you're going to out-execute your competition. So that's what's key. Then from within marketing, looking at your own metrics. So what's your conversion rate across paid channels? So paid is search, advertising, and social channels. Best practices is that your overall blended conversion rate should be north of 5%. On the SEO side, you should be striving to have hundreds of SEO campaigns out there. A campaign is a specific keyword phrase and a dedicated, highly optimized landing page, one-to-one relationship between the SEO search phrase and the dedicated landing page. And those are going to be under your company's URL, and therefore increasing your score over time, because those are potentially doubling the number of overall pages your company has out there, and they're going to be high quality and working for your overall digital score. The other thing to look at is 100% of your paid and organic landing pages that people click through to should have a call to action on it, and then measuring how is that call to action working. What's the conversion rate by call to action? What content works best to enhance the form fill or coerce people to give you their contact information? And so you can actually measure ROI and conversion rate by offer, because after all, that's the purpose of content, is to drive pipeline, and that'll give you indication about what's most interesting for your buyers. Is a Gartner Group report more interesting than a white paper? Is a white paper more interesting than a video? By watching conversion rates over time for these different CTAs, you'll know the answer better than anyone. And then greater than 50% of your inbound leads should be coming from non-branded terms. This is the dirty little secret in digital marketing, is that most companies that we run into, over 70% of their digital conversions are coming from branded terms. So Captora.com, affiliated terms. Well, those people are going to find your company anyway. The key is to increase the percentage of new inbound leads that are finding your company and your products using pain statement terms, not terms associated with your brand. And those are going to move faster through the funnel. Those are going to be much higher quality leads. So the top 5 digital marketing metrics to think about are listed here. Number 1, what's the pipeline target that you have across the top of the funnel? And there are 4 ways to grow your funnel. One is inbound. Inbound is organic and paid channels. Second is outbound, events, email, account-based marketing like we're talking about. Referral, which is coming from both partners and customers. And then sales-driven, which is owned by the rep. So the first is to understand what are your targets for visitors and leads by channel, and how are you doing against that? So that's metric number 1, because that's the agreement you also have with sales about what's marketing role and what is marketing success defined as by channel. Second is the number of new contacts that you're adding to your marketing database, because that's the asset that grows over time and allows you to go back and remarket. So you should have hundreds of thousands of contacts, like we do at Captora, in your database that you're able to filter and run campaigns against and then nurture using marketing automation. Third is the number of leads from non-branded campaigns, which we talked about on the last slide. Conversion rate, which for most companies is a form fill, and that form could either be a marketing automation form, or it could be a trial that goes directly into your product. And then ultimately, in the top of the funnel, it's CPL, or cost per lead. Could be cost per click. Every company's got a different form of that definition, but it's basically how much did you spend in marketing to get that form fill or get that new contact. And my experience is that traditionally you want that cost per form fill to be under $100, and then by leveraging modern technology like we're talking about here, we see most companies getting the cost per lead down below $50. And that will make your CEO and CFO happy and make it easier to get more budget as you go forward, because not only can you predict how to drive more pipeline, but you'll be doing that at a more efficient rate than what's been done in the past. But the key is to set the right expectations to beat your goals. And what we've learned is that paid search is all about conversion. And I think most of us that are on this webinar today have experience with paid search. And paid search is all about what content is on the landing page, what do I offer or promote in order to drive quality conversion. So it's all about optimization. But what most people don't realize is how powerful organic search is, but then also how different the mindset needs to be. Organic search is all about generating the number of campaigns or expanding the long tail. So the key metric there is how many campaigns, how many dedicated landing pages associated with keyword phrases do you have out there under your company's URL that people are finding when they do searches looking for products like what you have. And you should be able to generate a new organic campaign in 10 to 15 minutes. So being able to agree on what is the keyword that we want to have a dedicated landing page on with a CTA, and then create that landing page and launch it. And then there's a lag time. It'll take 3 months, around 3 months on average, for that page to be discovered, climb the rankings, and appear on page one, so that then it's driving more visitors and leads. And then over time, you want organic search to be your test ground, because it's virtually free to generate a new organic campaign, test new keywords, own those keywords, and then figure out how those new organic discovered keywords that are working for you can now drive your paid search strategy. Because now you can start to acquire, like Google AdWords as an example, new AdWords that are less contested, because you found keywords that are working for you before your competitors. And those will be lower cost, obviously. So there are three key priorities for digital marketing. One is to watch your competitors, understand what keywords are working, what are your competitors promoting, both new landing pages as well as new content that they're promoting. And then make sure that you're synthesizing all that so that you're working on the right stuff. I think there's about 30% of digital marketers' time is wasted trying to figure out what campaigns to watch. And there's a lot of statistics around this, and it's depressing. So you can use new technology to find the right keywords, then work on the right campaigns and landing pages that are going to drive pipeline. And that's the second step here, is to accelerate growth. So on organic, launch literally hundreds of new campaigns, new landing pages. Give them time. They're going to climb the rankings and generate leads, and you'll learn what keywords work, which ones don't. And then let that optimize your spend strategy in the paid channels, and then spend your time optimizing the content, the title, subtitle, CTA, footer, etc., on your paid search landing pages, and associate those by persona and measure the content and the conversion rates on your content. And then report the successes, double down on the campaigns, and reuse the content that's working, and that way you're able to drive up pipeline and drive down CPL, and then be able to show those results in order to justify more budget and help the company grow faster. And what we've learned on SEO, which is interesting, is that it's all about the fav icon, the URL, the title. So the key, the best practices is make sure that someone that's doing a search, in this case B2B mobile marketing, this is a campaign that Marketo is using Captora for. In Captora, we will automatically in the application generate and leverage best practices to create the template for the landing page. So the fav icon, the URL, the title is aligned with the search phrase. So when someone is finding this page, they're doing a search in Google, not only is it ranked high, which you can see in the right-hand screenshot, but now they see that your company understands their pain, has a dedicated website to the pain that they're searching on, and the website experience that they click through to is completely aligned to the pain that they have. So their mindset now goes to, wow, you understand my pain, this is fantastic, I'm willing to give you my contact information, and you're off to the races. And then you repeat that across hundreds of different keywords. On the paid channel, it's all about content testing. So breaking down the landing page, leveraging Captora's paid application, we can create variables. So the title, the ad copy, the CTA can all be associated to different personas. And when someone clicks through, those can dynamically change when the person's coming through to this page, so that you can multivariant test content and then automatically promote the content that is converting at the highest rate, and therefore increasing conversion rates. So the key is to work more across these different channels and off of a platform that can report the results by piece of content, by campaign, and be able to look at that over time while getting a real-time feed. What are my competitors doing? What are they promoting and launching? So it takes the guesswork and surprises out of digital marketing. And that's all built into the platform. The results are substantial. We've seen companies get twice as fast on making decisions about what priority campaigns to work on. and then see a substantial increase in visitors and leads from both organic as well as paid channels, looking at conversion rate increases of around 100%, that'll generate obviously twice the leads at a better CPL. And then the additional landing pages that are created will increase the quality score and the overall value of the company's web properties. So it's a complete win across both paid and organic channels. And now your funnel metrics increase substantially as well. And so this is a simple view of funnel economics that I'm sure most of you are doing today. If you're not, should be, is look at the number of visitors generated by month. What is the conversion rate to leads, marketing qualified leads in this example, and then what's the conversion rate from marketing qualified leads to opportunity, or some call it a sales accepted lead. What's your average deal size and sales cycle, and that'll convert into what's the close rate and the amount of incremental revenue that marketing has generated for your company. When you know the funnel economics, now you can predict what campaigns, what spend do I need to make this month in order to drive and make sure that we beat our revenue goals in future months. And that'll give you, as well as your CFO and CEO, a lot of confidence to invest more budget in marketing, because expense money is worth far less than revenue. Because most companies that are growth SaaS companies, their market valuation, the market cap of your company, is about 8 to 10 times your revenue, and expense comes at a cost of about 1 times revenue. So in other words, growth is worth 8 to 10 times the marketing expense budget. And as long as CFO and CEO can see the math of the business, spending more money in order to grow faster is the world's easiest decision. So I'll hand over to Jon to talk about the metrics now for account-based marketing and how to think through that process as well, leveraging modern technology.
All right, super. Well, it's funny. So Paul, all those metrics you were just talking about, those are the metrics I've been, living with and using and preaching for years, and they're all super important. And the last thing I want to imply is that I think any of them, are going away. And yet I'm also being a little controversial with this picture here, where I'm showing, a big cross through the traditional waterfall, and the metrics. So what do I mean by all this? Leads and opportunities and pipeline are necessary, but they are insufficient to really measure the more complex account-based marketing activities. And there's 2 key reasons why. The first reason is because, remember, you've already built your database with the right people that you need at your target accounts. So, quote unquote, generating a lead is not really the right way to think about things, because they're already in your database. More importantly, the concept of marketing generated pipeline becomes less meaningful when you are doing these larger, more complex deals. If you have a $500,000 deal, no marketer can or should claim credit for generating that deal because of that one lead at that one trade show. So we need a different way of thinking about ABM that goes beyond counting people and trying to assign credit to marketing. And David Ogilvy gives us at least a clue to what we need to do, and I referred to this a minute ago when I was talking about events. This is not about counting the people we reach. ABM is about reaching the people that count. And so to support that, I'm proposing 5 new kinds of metrics to add to the traditional funnel to help us measure account-based marketing. The first is coverage, which is straightforward. Do we have data? Do we have opt-in contacts for the right people at each of our target accounts? I like to think in terms of, marketing victory laps. If at the beginning of the quarter you only have good data for 27% of your accounts, and then you do work, and by the end of the quarter you have brought that up to 51% of your accounts where you now have good opt-in data, right? That's a marketing victory lap, where you can claim you've made progress towards delivering what you need to do to help with these target accounts. The second metric is awareness. Are these accounts, are your target accounts aware? Are they visiting the website? Are they spending time with you? Right? And again, if at the beginning of the quarter, only 18 of all your accounts have done anything, but by the end of the quarter, it's 48 accounts that have done anything, that's progress. And again, that's another marketing victory lap. I think the third and perhaps the most important metric is engagement. Because this is really what you want to know. In that big gap between when you first start to connect with an account and when they actually become pipeline, how do you know if you're making the right progress? And once they are a deal, how do you know if you're moving and connecting with people as you move through the sales cycle? You have to answer, are the right people spending time with your company? And is it trending in the right direction? So you put together a heat map that shows where engagement is happening by persona in your account. Track that engagement over time. Is it going up? Is it going down? One of the metrics I'm proposing is that we move away from a marketing qualified lead mindset is to move towards a marketing qualified account mindset, where when that aggregate engagement gets high enough, that's what triggers action, not activity from any one person. And then look at your engagement for each of your target accounts and identify who are the most engaged accounts, and use that as your action list to know where you want to follow up with and who you need to follow up with. The next two metrics really talk about programs. And the first three talk about how are you doing in aggregate. These two are talking about, are your individual programs reaching the right people? And then I'll talk about impact. So I like to look at these two ideas, focus and coverage. Focus is a measure of efficiency. If you have a webinar that has 100 people, but only 5 of those people are from your target accounts, that is only 5% focused. It wasn't very efficient at reaching your target accounts. But now let's just say, hypothetically, you only have 10 target accounts, and you had 5 people from 5 different accounts attending. Well, that's not bad. You actually covered half your target accounts then. So you might have high coverage, low focus, for example. If you have a very a broad-based program, for example. Coverage and focus, I think, are interesting metrics. And then the last, and perhaps arguably the most important metric, is impact and influence. Right? Are your programs improving the outcomes that you care about? Right? If you do account-based advertising, does that increase deal velocity? Right? If you invite executives from your customers to come to a seminar, does that have an impact on Net Promoter? And you want to be able to look at the correlations between the things you do and the outcomes you care about in order to connect those dots and answer, what's working, what's not working, and what you should do more of. Those are the 5 metrics for ABM. Before we get to Q&A, I just wanted one last slide, because there's a lot of confusion, I think, in the account-based marketing space, a lot of questions about all the different vendors. And so I'd like to, expand my 3-step model into this more complex 6-step model and really talk about, what do you do in ABM? You pick the accounts and the people you want to go after. That's the who. You then create insights and content to understand them and reach out to them. That's the what. You then interact with them over a variety of channels and then orchestrate those interactions, and that's my where. And then lastly, there was the measurement piece I just talked about. You see different vendors in different spaces. Engagio is a company, we're starting with that measurement piece on the far right, and then that's actually going to release the end of this month. And then early next year, we'll deliver the first piece of the orchestration and interaction capabilities. So you kind of see where we play, where we partner, and where we're friends. So hopefully that clears some of that up. And with that, I think we're at Q&A time. So again, please submit any questions you have, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John and Paul. That was a great conversation, a lot of great content to dig into. Yes, we will be sharing the slides, so after the presentation you will get an email with a link to the presentation, and it'll include all the slides for you to dive into. So as there's a few questions that came in. Feel free to keep chatting me questions. We'll do Q&A until about the top of the hour. Paul, the first question is for you. Could you talk a little about Alexa and how it will profile your company and the success of it?
Yep, sure. So Alexa, it's spelled Alexa, and if you go to alexa.com, it's an AWS site, and on that site you type in your URL, and you can also type in competitors or other companies to check them out and do a comparison. But it's just one of many tools that are out there to be able to get a sense of your digital quality and profile and number of links back to your website, those types of things. And so it's an indication of how aggressively your pages or new campaigns will rank or receive quality scores as you get them out there. So it's definitely something you want to track over time and look at, as well as the number of ranked pages that you have and where you're ranked from a Google quality perspective as well, and where you show up if you do AdWords, where you show up in a stack on the page also. So check it out. It's one of the tools that I'd recommend taking a look at probably monthly. And then if you want to go look at other companies that you compete with or that you track, it's interesting to watch the trend on that, because you certainly want it to go down over time. And one of those poor metrics that lower is better. Like, I prefer things to get better as they get higher, but on Alexa the lower is better, and it's dramatically higher impact if you're at, say, 5,000 versus 50,000. It's more than the number indicates on the amount of juice that you have for your digital marketing programs. So you obviously want to get that to improve over time.
Perfect. John, question for you. What do you think of adding an account-based marketer to be more embedded with sales?
Well, I think there are two types of things account-based marketers should do. The first is to research the account and help create insights to enable everyone, marketing and sales, to be more relevant and to tailor for resonance when they connect with their target account. So there's almost like a research enablement function. And then there's this more programmatic function about knocking on new doors and opening new relationships. I think that first one is incredibly well embedded with sales. I think the second one, and the question is, the real question is, how many accounts can one marketer support in terms of really doing that research? And when do you have to break into just doing an industry or segment model? I think the second one, the people knocking on doors, you often do find field marketers that are embedded in with the sales team, and I think that's great. But I think what we need to do is raise that profile of that field marketer to not just be an events person and somebody who can think multi-channel and holistically about knocking on doors.
Perfect. Another question, either John or Paul, feel free to answer. Is there a situation when nurturing campaigns should be outsourced to an agency as opposed to running an in-house MarTech stack?
So
yeah,
I can take a quick. You want to do that, John? Okay, I'll take a quick cut at it first. So there's marketing automation does a couple of things in the middle of the funnel. So nurturing campaigns is one, scoring is the other, and then email marketing. So I don't think, I think you want to make sure to have that middle of the funnel covered. And so I think marketing automation is a critical piece, because it's also your system of record for your contacts, so that you can sort contacts and run programs off of them. So I don't think that outsourcing will replace the technology, but I do think that you can outsource the management of that. So there are lots of consultants and consulting companies out there that do a great job of setting up your marketing automation as well as your CRM system and optimizing nurturing campaigns and scoring and so forth. So it's not something that I think, especially smaller companies, would be required to hire a dedicated person for that. I think it's absolutely fair to use a consultant, either an independent or an agency, to set that up and make that work well for you. John, any other comments on that?
Yep, I think that's great.
Perfect. Question for Paul. What's the different strategies you can use for SEO versus paid channels?
Yeah, so the key to think about first is that you're running your top-of-funnel campaigns in order to drive new high-quality buyers that used to be anonymous, turn them into now known contacts. So that's a value to the company that for years to come. And you're thinking about how to engage with them at the earliest stage possible when they're starting to search or look around for solutions to the pain that they're going through, which is that whole association with non-branded terms is more valuable than branded, and they'll move through your pipeline faster when you engage with them outside of branded terms. Then when you peel the onion back a little bit and look at SEO versus paid, the key is that SEO is all about launching long-tail dedicated landing pages one-to-one associated with these keyword phrases, and then optimizing favicon, URL, title, all that kind of stuff so that the person has that experience that your company knows their pain and has a dedicated website to their pain they convert. That's far more important in SEO is to get hundreds of those dedicated landing pages out there and then see what's working and what's not working versus spending too much time on the ad copy. And it's a hard mindset change because a lot of marketers have been trained that the words on the page, or what a lot of people refer to as the ad copy, the supportive paragraph or two below the subtitle, is critical. And it is critical to the paid channels. It's not critical to SEO. So while you don't want to reuse that content, because that'll get you in trouble from a de-ranking standpoint, the ad copy on the page is more of a potential negative than it is a potential positive. So don't waste too much time on it. And that's where we tell people you should be kicking out new campaign landing pages for SEO every 10 to 15 minutes. If you're taking longer than that, you're spending too much time worrying about the ad copy. On the paid channel side, it's the complete opposite. These are dynamic pages where the content is extremely meaningful to drive up conversion rates, and that's the game you're in. So think of paid as content optimization for conversion. Think of SEO as long-tail expansion in order to drive new incremental leads into your company or marketing automation database.
Awesome. John, question for you. You touched a little upon all the partners. That slide, that was the last slide you had. Can you talk a little about how Engagio and ABM complements a marketing automation like Marketo?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we complement/require a marketing automation tool at Engagio to work, because we're doing pretty different things. We're providing that broad account-centric view and the different kinds of metrics, and ultimately we'll support some of those more outbound-oriented programs and channels. But we don't do lead nurturing. We don't do email campaigns. We don't do lead scoring. We don't manage webinars and other marketing programs. So it's a great complement where when you put the two systems together, that's kind of really the complete end-to-end tool you need for doing ABM.
Awesome. Last question for Paul. How can digital marketing, so search, landing pages, etc., work best with an ABM mindset?
Yeah, I think they're extremely complementary. Where what we're talking about at Captora digital marketing across search, advertising, social is about identifying new people. A lot of those new people that turn into buyers are going to be potentially buyers within accounts. So we run into this opportunity all the time where a company that has a list of targeted accounts or big global businesses that they want to expand in is going to leverage account-based marketing in order to expand in those accounts or target new accounts outbound with a message using account-based marketing. And what we're talking about with Captora and digital marketing or casting the net out there is what are some of those right messages that get those people to engage? That's great input for ABM. But also it's complementary because we're driving new, previously anonymous people that could turn into account-based marketing companies in the future because they're larger companies, but they engage with you through digital marketing strategies. And one of the interesting things I've seen in the past is that if you optimize your digital or inbound marketing for your velocity business, and maybe your target is you want 70% of your pipeline for your velocity business to come from, say, inbound marketing, you're still going to see a rollover of those buyers in larger companies for your field-based sales business. And for instance, at my last company, we saw 46% of the inbound marketing leads were within enterprise global companies. And so that's an obvious connection point between account-based marketing and digital marketing complementing each other as you think about how to create tremendous efficiencies using new technology across all stages of your funnel.
Perfect. And we are coming up to the top of the hour, so we are done with our Q&A. As a follow-up, Captora is offering a free digital marketing assessment. So if you go to our website and enter your domain and 3 of your competitors' domain, we'll show you how you stack rank against them in terms of content. And Engagio has an ebook on SlideShare that is there about the metrics that John just talked about. So the link will be sent to you via email. Thank you so much for everyone that dialed in. And thanks again, John and Paul. That was a great conversation. And I hope everyone has a great afternoon. Thanks.
Okay. We're out. Due to the call of the.
Awesome, we're out. All right, thanks, guys. I actually got to jump to my next thing, but good stuff.